Hello gamers, I'm once again using Pridwini as a background, and today we're going to be talking about polling opinions for Honkai Star Rail. I'm going to talk about who I'm going to pull and so on, right? So maybe this video helps you decide who to pull and all that good stuff while I've got Destiny music in the background because I'm currently sitting in the tower, but that's besides the point. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people and or chatted with a lot of people in terms of like who to pull, in terms of what characters are worth it. I'm gonna just tell you right now, Xiao Cho, probably still saying his name wrong, uh, is worth it. He's worth it. Yes, indeed. Bet you didn't expect me to say that when I made that first video about him. Well, he is. Personally, for me, I'm just gonna say right now, he's like a drug for Acheron, bro. I cannot go back to any other debuffer. His debuff application, everything else unparalleled. What he's doing unparalleled. He feels like, unlike everybody else, he feels like he's actually doing something. Like, this is the first debuffer that actually feels like they're doing something and they're making a huge impact. I think he's more than worth it. And he does work on teams that are not just Acheron. Make that clear. Is he the best in slot for Dot? No, never said he was going to be. But he's still a good flex option, good in Pure Fiction, all this other stuff. I'll yap about him more later. The main thing is overall who we're pulling, because next update we've got multiple characters to pull, that being Feixiao. I should have pulled this up, god damn it. Here we go. Next update, we have Feixiao, Lingsha, with the reruns being Robin, Back Swan, Kafka, and the other rerun being Topaz, who is surprising to see here all, once again, right? So we'll talk about that. And wait a minute. No, I can pull this up live. I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't think any of these characters are worth pulling, except for Robin. All right, that probably got you there on one of those there. But yeah, nobody in this update I think is worth it. They're not meaningful upgrades, or they're just not worth it for your actual account value, except for Robin, right? Because Robin is an incredible buffer who's providing you a lot of things, so on and so on. And let's actually pull this up. This is what I'm trying to pull up. We got the banner schedule in terms of reruns and everything, right? This is updated to 2.4. As you can see here, in terms of reruns, how long everybody's been gone, all that stuff. The main thing we're looking for here is when Acheron and Firefly will come back. Firefly was just here, so she won't be back for at least 2 more updates, most likely. And Acheron is probably going to be here in 2.6, considering her buffer just came out, and they didn't want to strain your pulls too hard. But at least if you're me, well, the pulling situation is not looking too good, right? We just want to talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing I did last time, where I took a screenshot of this and then drew a bunch of circles on the screen. So if y'all are gonna get annoyed for me for one thing, have it be my presentation and not my opinion. No, I'm playing. You guys can do whatever you want. So I'm gonna put this in front of the thumbnail you probably saw on my channel like 5 minutes ago if you're a returning viewer. We're just gonna leave that up on screen. So yeah, out of all these, wait, I did this wrong. I'm stupid. You're pulling for 5 stars, not 4 stars. If you're pulling for 4 stars, then we gotta have a different conversation. But yeah, out of these characters that are worth pulling in terms of these new ones, I honestly do not think any of the new ones are worth pulling. I think Robin's worth pulling because she's incredible, but she's not a must pull for a lot of people's accounts, and we are going to talk about that, right? So what we have here is the characters in terms of what you want to pull. And actually, hold on, I'm going to blow this up just for like presentation's sake. Apologies for doing this live. Definitely should have done it before I recorded the video, but it's fine. Y'all, if you're constant viewer of the channel, you know my shenanigans that I do here. But yeah, so at least if you're me for free to play, I don't have a lot of summons, and it's because I wasted all of them on the weapon banner doing something stupid. All right, we're not going to talk about that. Point is, I wasted 40 pulls. I somehow kept pulling light cones in one pull back to back. It is what it is. But to talk about specifically the 2 new characters, Feixiao, she's going to be effectively your not Animo. Oh my god, your wind version of Dr. Ratio, except she doesn't require debuffs, right? So Dr. Ratio was a free unit for a lot of people who have who are playing, that 1.6 to 2.1 era. They would have had Ratio for free, and he's totally fine to pull. He does require, some higher investment to actually get up and running and functioning, but he is totally fine character to use and run. And Feixiao is going to have similar performance, if not better in some scenarios, and I would say probably worse than others. It really depends on how your investment is. She's going to be significantly easier to run, considering if you summon for her, you're going to get Mo's most likely for her banner. So if you don't have enough summons to pull Topaz, you're at least going to have another character that works very well. However, both their teams are going to be very similar. pretty much for Feixiao, your teams are going to be the exact same. Your optimal team is going to be the DPS, so her ratio with Topaz in slot 2, and then you're going to put Robin in slot 3 and Aventurine in slot 4, right? Not having Aventurine and or Robin are going to be huge impacts of the team overall. Topaz is more swappable. Now, granted, you can't argue that Robin is the most swappable part of that, because Robin by herself isn't doing anything besides the turn advance, or that's not really true. She's obviously giving you the attack buff and damage percent buff, but the turn advance is the main thing she's bringing, and that arguably, because Feixiao needs the actions, that she's the most replaceable. Now, that being said, I don't really necessarily agree with that. That's just some opinion that I've heard from other people, but this is something that consider. Ratio's running the exact same team. He needs those debuffs, right? Now, Ratio does obviously feel bad without having his light cone or significant debuffs on the team, so you need like E1, S1 Topaz to function. Feixiao won't really have that same problem, but she's still going to have similar issues to Ratio, being that she's single target. She's going to need a lot of actions to actually output her damage, to build up her ultimate stacks and all that stuff, right? And so you're going to have a very similar functioning unit that's going to get relatively close levels of damage, if not more, because of how she functions, right? She is, going to be pretty strong. However, at least in my opinion, in terms of what we have on actually available to us, and again, the roster of 5 stars, I don't think she's worth pulling, because Acheron's around the corner, because Firefly's, insanely powerful, and she's also going to be after Feixiao at some point. Obviously, the number one thing here, obviously I'm going to be yapping, I'm pretty long-winded with this stuff, is pull who you like. Ultimately, come to channels like mine to help figure out how to run them best, and so on, right? That's what I do here, that's all the stuff, that's what I'm focused on doing. But this is a character that I don't think is worth your pulls in terms of value, because you have to do all this investment to reach the level of Firefly or Acheron, who straight up be running a team of like complete 4 stars and just clearing MOC. Like, I don't like until this update, Acheron was seen as like the best DPS apart from Firefly with a full team of 4 stars, and one of them did nothing for her. Gwenhyphen did nothing because her application is complete dog for like debuffs and damage application, right? So like now she has effectively her Ruan Mei. Firefly already had Ruan Mei, but now with Xiao Guo, she has her Ruan Mei, and she's insane. Like, straight up, the order operations for it is like you get Acheron, then you get him, and then you get her light cone, and then you get her E2, his light cone, and his E1, right? That's the order of operations. Like, he is that good that I would, unironically, and I was labbing this out, I would probably pull him over her light cone, especially if you got Goodnight Sleepwell S5, right? Granted, her light cone, huge damage boost like every other DPS light cone, but he is providing that much impact for Acheron specifically, right? So, again, hard sell for Feixiao, because you pull her, then you have to pull Robin, and then you have to pull oh my god, Aventurine, forgot his name for a second, and then you have to pull Topaz. Right now, sure, Moze exists now, and with Dr. Ratio as the counterpart, like, oh, you could use any of the debuffers, right? Which, guess who's a debuffer, right? But you have to pull all this versus the pull of Acheron, which Pella was on Acheron's banner, so if you did summon for her, there was no way you didn't have Pella, unless you got extremely unlucky, right? And then for Firefly, well, her banner was at the same time as like Ruan Mei was running, but like Ruan Mei's a must pull. If you don't summon Ruan Mei, you're throwing. Your account is just fodder. I'm gonna just say it right now. But you've got this team of people who's, first off, 2 free units. Pella was free at one point. So with both Acheron and Firefly, you're running the main DPS, a free unit, 1 premium unit, and then a free 4-star healer. And those are the best teams in the game right now. So why would you invest so many pulls into Feixiao to have a worse result? Like, just straight off of that, right? And not even that, pure flexibility. Acheron's gonna be one of the most flexible characters in the game, especially if you pull Xiao Guo, or Xiao Cho. I'm saying his name. I apologize. I'm saying his name right. Xiao Cho. Well, you're gonna get that pure fiction amplification. You can full clear pure fiction. You can, obviously clear MOC, because at that point you're gonna have all these boosts, right? You can, do like the same thing with Firefly. Firefly's gonna obviously demolish Apocalyptic Shadow, right? She's gonna demolish in what's it called? MOC, right? And then you may struggle in pure fiction, but here's the thing: you could run her with somebody like Himiko, Herta, with your Ruan Mei in full clear pure fiction, no problem. Well, I wouldn't, well, not necessarily full clear. It depends on the, certain things, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you have a team that is enough to clear all content with completely free to play accessible stuff, right? And I'm sure some people are going to be like, oh, but you're unrealistic. You have E2 S1 Acheron. Well, I am free to play. I'm full clearing it with my hyper invested first half on everything in my less invested second half, right? And I've even done it in like more realistic setups, so on and so on, right? And again, you'll see this in my testing. I somehow got a run using Topaz to match the run using Sparkle with Acheron. Some of y'all are gonna be like, what the fuck? Yeah, I unironically somehow got the same cycle count as using Topaz as it was Sparkle with Acheron. Again, I can't explain it, but it there's some goofy stuff that you can get going up with these characters, right? And I did this in a previous Pure Fiction video. I unironically used Topaz for stat gain to get Acheron more points, and it worked, right? So even if you have weird pulling patterns, are not necessarily pulling for the same character like Vertical Investment, you can still get this done if you think about it in terms of strategy. So I don't see a reason why you would pull a character like Feixiao if she is only going to be good for you inside of like MOC and then maybe Apocalypse Shadow, right? Hunt characters get completely shafted by Pure Fiction unless you do some really funny stuff with like Robin, multiple action advance, you've got dupes, so on and so on, right? Like there's ways to get it done, but like, is it really worth all of your pulls just to do that? And so while she's a good DPS, is she making it to these top tiers? I don't think so. Is she a little bit better in ratio? Yeah, sure. If we're picking a top 5 DPS, it's Acheron, Firefly. I would say Boot Hill. Yeah, so Acheron, Firefly, Boot Hill. Probably the counter girl or Jingle Yu for like 4 and 5. You can give them a toss up. And then it's like Dot for 6. And then I'm picking ratio, right? And actually, we'll replace ratio with Feixiao. So like, I don't think she's really reaching top 5. Now, granted, I need to see more of her to be fair. So maybe she's better than Dot. But like, if we're really like, nitpicking here, I don't think it's worth it, despite her being good. You can get a lot more out of pulling these other characters. And here's the thing, you can still pull Robin and use her with Acheron and get like 0 cycles, right? There's plenty of people doing videos of it with like the Gallagher tech. And this is going to be another point on why you shouldn't pull Lingsha. But like Gallagher's so strong, you don't need other sustains. Like, obviously Venturine is very good in Ho-Ho for like dot teams or ult-based characters like Argenti, right? Those are good pulls. But like past that, you don't need anybody else, right? And so hopefully this like makes sense to why I'm saying it's like I don't think she's worth it. Like there's all these factors to where it's for free to play, unless you like the character, not really a reason to pull, because she's not doing anything different than like other characters necessarily. Like she's good, don't get me wrong, but she's like I struggle to say that she's top 5 personally, right? I don't know if I'm like explaining this well, but that's just what I wanted to convey. But then like furthermore, the other character, Lingsha, I don't think she's worth pulling at all because Gallagher is so fucking broken, just straight up. So we know what she does at this point. If you looked at the sussy information, you know what she does. She is hardly an upgrade over Gallagher in like literally every sense. So you're getting like what 13% more damage. However, it's 1 turn less at E4 Gallagher, and so you're having to pull this 5-star to be worse than a E4 like banner unit that's literally was free. I told everybody to pick up Gallagher, but people apparently didn't want to because they're Delulu and don't understand how broken he is. And that's the number one thing. People don't understand how broken Gallagher is with all the utility that he provides overall for your account. And the fact that he has like the best healing in the game, apart from like Luocha, in terms of net heals, if you can attack, let me get that clear. In every AoE scenario, if his debuff is on the target, you get the best heals in the entire game. He overheals half the time, or most of the time actually, because he hasn't seen healing. But again, like, there's so many of these things that Gallagher is bringing to the table, like the action advance, the skill points, the Quiver Pro Tech, right? The fact that he attacks with his ult and skill, which is good for various enemy types, high toughness damage. He's immune to debuffs, so you got permanent uptime, right? He's got a cleanse too at E2, right? Like, Gallagher is doing so many things. All Lingsha has is toughness damage, a kind of RNG effective cleanse on her, follow-up attack, right? Not as good heals, however, she does heal multiple attacks, so depending on like your rotations and whatnot, she can heal more, but Gallagher technically has more healing on paper. Toughness damage, and then a buff that is granted 13% higher, but it lasts for 1 turn less. So if you have a really fast enemy like the boss, like Hooray boss, or what I think that's how you say his name, the wolf guy, he's gonna just outspeed and your buff's gonna be gone. So it's gonna be worse for modes like all the enhanced modes, right? So like Divinate Universe, where they get the speed buff, right? Certain things where enemies will get a second turn or they'll get action advanced teammates, right? Your buff will be gone. So you literally lose your break buff faster because it doesn't last as 3 turns as much as Gallagher. Lingsha's a character that I unironically don't think is better than Gallagher until E1, because at E1 she gets defense down for the whole team, and she does more break damage, or more toughness damage specifically. That is not worth it, because here's the thing, her light cone is really good, but you can just put that shit on Gallagher and get that extra 10 to 18% damage taken. So you're telling me I have to go and pull an E1 S1 of a unit to be an upgrade over a 4-star? Fuck no, bro. Like, I'm sorry, like, I know people like this character. I think her design's pretty solid as well. But there is no reason to pull this character for most people. If you're trying to min-max Firefly, sure, you'll get a bit more damage, right? Definitely pull the E1 if you are trying to min-max Firefly, right? Don't get me wrong here. And that E2, very good for boosting your break. But this character, for most people, isn't worth it because of how broken Gallagher is. I'm telling you, put effort into your Gallagher and you won't regret it. Like, he is insane. And he's doing way too much to have this character at all be considered for most people, right? Waifu poolers, they're gonna pull regardless. But for most people, Gallagher is too good to consider pulling her. She won't be an upgrade in most cases, right? It's only the case of, oh, if I specifically can get the turns active with her buff active, she's Firefly does more damage by 13% for these 2 turns or whatnot, right? Like, it's just not worth it, right? I know 20 minutes into the fucking video or whatever the hell, but hopefully I'm making sense here that these new characters aren't really worth it. For the old characters, Topaz is going to be one of those characters, and that's why I have this chart that's a long-term pull, because she has aged incredibly well with these follow-up characters. So let's say you are pulling Feixiao, let's say you're pulling Robin, or you plan to pull Venturine, whatever, you're going to pull Topaz, or at least you want to pull Topaz in the long term because you want to use her with other follow-up attack-centric characters. Go right ahead. Solid pull. I have Topaz just because I like her as a character. She's hot. What can I say? And, like, it's an okay pull. Granted, I don't think she provides much value on my account apart from the fact that I've done the funny runs with, like, you know, as I said earlier, Acheron. But she's something there that could provide value to certain players if you are trying to build up the follow-up attack team and so on, right? So she's a solid pull there. And actually, you know what? I don't even know why I have this pulled up if I have this pulled up. I don't know why I'm only now realizing that, but hopefully this makes sense. And again, in terms of rerun, right? Topaz is already coming back pretty soon. And with the new rerun system, we'll see how this pans out in terms of characters coming up. Again, Acheron's probably going to come back soon. Zeal's going to come back soon. Silver's probably going to come back soon. I'd imagine Blade is here soon. And then we'll also get Dr. Ratio at some point. And so you're going to get some weird hodgepodge of characters that's going to look like something like this here. Do I have the notepad open? Yeah, one sec. Let me just zoom in here because I want to make sure I get this into the video just for like reference. So we're going to end up with something really weird that's going to look something like this, where we've got the first step being Feixiao, Robin, Flex on Kafka, and the second half being Lingsha Topaz, and then we're gonna get like a Rappo with like Silverwolf and like Acheron Ratio. A really weird combo here, and then it's gonna be like Sunday, Zila, Venturine, like Tingyun and Luocha, like something random like this. This is a complete guess, by the way. I'm making an informed guess based on multiple factors and information. Of course, I can't confirm any of this, but we're gonna get a scenario that's gonna hammer us for pulls, and specifically for someone like me who wants to pull for Tingyun, where we've got all these high value characters back to back. Once again, this has been happening since Firefly's come out, where it's just like boom, 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 characters you want to pull. Now, granted, you can argue about this update and Jade for, you know, one example, but like, again, like there's gonna be a lot of people that have issues pulling, like, again, me, for example, some of these new characters and so on, right? So yeah, let's continue on this yap session with the dot characters. I don't like the dot playstyle personally. However, these characters are really good if you've got both of them. Do I think it's necessarily worth it? Honestly, no. So we can talk about all day what Robin's providing you in terms of like 1,000+ attack, right? Action advance, right? Ooh, whoa, don't want to put her up there. And like all this other stuff. However, I don't think she is a must pull. And pretty much to this day, I still think there's only one must pull. I'm not gonna lie, but she's got really good value for your account overall. As long as you can, suffice the fact that you will have less skill points, you can make use of her kit, right? Obviously, she's going to excel great in those follow-up attack teams where you can get full use of her kit, and that's why she's the best in on those teams, because you make full utility of everything she wants to do. But in terms of like actual account value, she's going to be like having another Rame effectively, is that you'll have Rame for both sides, just one that's going to be less skill point efficient. And of course, if you do pull Rame, well, you have the best character for the brick team, right? So this character is going to provide a lot of value of giving you effectively 2 Rames, and the fact that you get action advance and all this other stuff, right? So very, very strong character. I'm pretty sure people understand, or they don't understand why she's that good, but she is really good, right? So she's worthwhile pulling, right? I can just go ahead and put Firefly up here. Insane pull value in terms of meta. Aventurine is going to be the same thing. He's going to be up here in terms of sustain. He's like the best. He's the best sustain for raw defense because he has the highest shields. He does damage. He's, getting hits in for toughness damage. He's applying a debuff, right? He's doing all this stuff. That's insane value. He's giving you effect rest. Like, this is a character that is more than worth it in terms of actual sustained value. So he's obviously going to be up here. I do think he provides insane value for that reason, because here's another thing. Those modes like Simulated Universe make massive use of shield stacking and other mechanics. So he's going to be very good for value, right? And this is why it's like I hard sell for these new characters, because they're not doing anything that has as much value as some of these other ones, right? And so, yeah, again, why does this go back to Dot? Well, I think Dot is being pushed out slowly for the fact that they're just not hitting the damage quota, right? So I think it's actually going to be to where the Dot characters are going to be in a niche or / boost to setup scenario. Because as I stated earlier in the video, why would you pull them when you can just pull Firefly or Acheron and demolish all modes, right? Now, sure, you can use Dot Charon, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it's necessarily worth pulling for these Dot characters in terms of a meta perspective, right? They're still very good. As I said earlier, they're like top 5 if you put them together, but I don't know why you would. It's sort of like the same thing as like Feixiao, where it's like you have to pull all this just to make them function. It's like I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. And again, obviously waifu pullers are gonna pull them, right? But it's a hard sell to pull these Dot characters when they're not going to synergize with the rest of your account, right? Pulling a support is innately more valuable because it's going to synergize with X variety of characters versus pulling the one character that's going to work with the one type of characters, right? And that's why Kafka is kind of okay, because she enables Dot as a whole. So if you do want to use the Dot characters, you like them, obviously you're going to pull Kafka, but I do think that she and her and Black Swan fit into a more niche / boost setup role, right? And that's why I've sort of redone this list, is to account for, those scenarios, right? We're going to try to rapid fire this because the video is getting way too long. Zila's a don't pull, your don't pull. I don't think Silverwolf's a pull. To explain Silverwolf is Zhao Shou. I said his name like wrong 5 different times in like 5 different ways. Pink Fox guy, you know who I'm talking about. In every scenario, he pretty much beats out Silverwolf in terms of practicability and uptime of debuffs. Obviously, Silverwolf's going to be the best in slot for mono quantum teams, but in a practical scenario, he wins. Granted, Silverwolf does have more total debuffs, so for ratio, you do get more out of it, especially with the defense penetration that you get from his light cone and her. So you do get more value out of the overall defense penetration when you stack defense penetration with other characters and their light cones, right? So you get more single target damage. However, most of the game isn't single target, and the fact that he exists with his permanent uptime on all his debuffs is like way better for basically everybody else. So Silverwolf is still good, but I think in terms of value, you get way more value out of him with all his Dot synergy and like all this debuffing, like all this other stuff, than pulling Silverwolf is just like period, right? Because I'll be real, why would you waste skill points on Silverwolf when you can just run a skill point positive character and then have a better damage setup with all these other characters. And it's AoE, it's not single target, right? And so on, so on. Like, I don't know why you would pull her unless it's for like a waifu perspective. Zila just isn't really worth it, meta-wise, and so on. Jing Yuan, same sort of thing. He's not that good. Requires a lot to actually put in them. Sparkle has really good value overall, as it effectively gives you 2 Bronias. You have a skill point positive Bronia. Yeah, I don't need to say anymore. Luocha, I don't think Luocha is worth pulling because Gallagher. So even though Luocha is really good for like Jing Liu teams, Blade teams, and other stuff like this, Gallagher kind of replaces him in every regard. Because even on the fact that my Bronya and a Jing Liu team won't be healed because she's never attacking, I can just use a skill with Gallagher. Oh, action advance, you're good. Like, as long as you're actively playing the game and not playing on auto mode, Gallagher's just going to be better in like every scenario than most other sustains, except for like Aventurine. And while Luocha does have some good things like a debuff removal, or sorry, buff removal, right? And he has his auto skill for debuff removal, which is really clutch in some scenarios because a lot of the times you'll get hit by a big attack, like the bugs, for example. They hit you with a big attack, you get debuffed, right? You're CC'd. Luocha will just auto cleanse, boom. Guess what? They're full health, and that debuff of getting CC'd is gone, right? It's very practical, Luocha's auto skill, but at the same time, is it really worth it when Gallagher is so good? I don't know. His pull value just really isn't there, and so while Luocha does provide, a lot of solid and very, very good comfortability in terms of like healing, hard to say it's worth pulling him. Blade, not worth it. He does have some synergy with Jade, but why would I pull Blade and Jade and have Blade himself be mid when I could just pull Acheron and Pink Fox guy and have him demolish every single mode, right? And that's the ultimate argument here. Is it worth your pulls? I don't think so. Dan, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think he's worth it. It's not the damage. His damage is fine. He's just... This is a personal one. I'm sure there's gonna be people upset about this. Personally, he feels like the worst character in the game to use, even with Sparkle. I don't want him. Get him out of here. Why would I use him when I could just pull Jing Liu? Yeah. We're putting Jing Liu there, and the reason is because she's still very solid DPS. However, she just gets beats out by the other ones above her. That's simple, right? I don't think that needs explanation. I think Ushuan has the same like scenario to where it's like good sustain, but I don't think she's beating out Aventurine or Gallagher and so on and so on. Huo, same scenario. She's very good in the dot team, but she's not a must pull. Don't really need her. Argenti, I think is a character that's actually fine to pull. I'm not gonna lie. Here's the thing. He's fine for pure fiction, but I don't think you should be pulling for pure fiction only characters because it's so easy to clear with some of these other top characters, and the fact that the free-to-play setup with Himiko and Herta is as potent as it is, so I don't think it's worth it. He's an okay pull. Like, he performs okay, but it's like, why would you pull him? Like, pure fiction is not that hard. Ruan Mei. If you don't pull Ruan Mei, you're throwing. Best character in the game. I think she's the only must summon in the game. She's doing so much, and people don't even realize what she's doing. Like, she's doing so much, you don't even realize how broken she is. Like, first off, there's the synergy with the modes, the break, the pseudo-defensive utility, the damage, the uptime, the skill and positivity, right? The speed. Oh yeah, did I mention the damage? The damage boost of break teams, right? The actual damage boost. Like, she is doing basically everything but buffing your HP and stuff like that. Like, this is an insane unit. She's one of the most comfortable units in the game because you slap her on any team. Low speed, she goes first on like Von Whack, boom, permanent uptime, right? All this stuff, like, you're getting so much out of her. She is the only character I'd say is a must pull. You pull her, she's going to boost basically everything but Acheron teams and then like Jing Liu teams, because there's some funny math with Jing Liu to where Pella is like better until you pull E1. But that's besides the point. And guess what? You can use her once you get E2 Acheron or as a 4th slot. Yeah, put her in slot 4. Acheron's gonna clap up even harder, right? Just don't run a sustain. Like I don't know what to say. Like you can't say if you like. The only thing you can say is if you don't pull Ruan Mei, it's equivalent to getting a level. No. Look, point is pull Ruan Mei. Dr. Ratio is don't pull. Let's keep it real. Single target, cringe. He was free. If you don't have him, you're not missing out. I don't think Lingsha is worth it. Flat out, Galliar's too strong. I don't think Feixiao's worth it. Jaquo, same scenario. I'm sorry, I keep saying his name wrong, bro. I'm sorry. It comes out wrong. I think this character's pretty decent. I don't think Jade's worth it. Jade's a tough one, right? We can, you know what? Here, let's make the argument Jade is good for a variety of modes. She'll be good in MOC for certain setups, and she'll be good in pure fiction. She's fine. She's fine. Boot Hill, good value. And that's it. Damn, that's it. We've already hit everybody. Obviously, there's gonna be people that disagree with this, but if like I'm thinking long term, why would I summon for these characters that aren't providing nearly as much value to me versus a character like Acheron or Firefly who's just going to completely demolish the modes, right? Obviously, these other characters are pretty good, but realistically, if you summon for like only these characters, like the meta value team, you'll have like the best teams in the game, and they're going to age incredibly well. Like here's the thing: if Acheron gets power crept, the game is fucked. I'll just say that right now. Like they would have gone too far. But yeah, we'll see. Those are my thoughts. Again, I could yap on all day about who to pull, reruns, you know, going so on. But this video is already 30 minutes long, and I haven't even got to the fact that I want to pull Ting Yun and who I want to pull, so on and so on. Who I've skipped, all that good stuff. The point of this video is sort of to understand is that these new characters aren't providing you that much value in terms of your actual account. I think it's better to either pull on the rerun banners for someone like Robin or like Topaz for a long-term investment, or just save your pulls for a better character, ultimately, right? Because again, I'm coming from a conservative mindset of save your pulls ultimately for something that's going to be worth your pulls, right? I don't think it's worth pulling on something that's not worth your pulls. It's that simple, right? And yes, that leans towards meta because you're getting the most bang for your buck in terms of actually being able to beat content and so on, right? So, yeah, again, if you have any questions about this stuff, you can ask it down below, join my Discord, all this, you know, all that stuff. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitch. And, yeah, look forward to the other videos. I made this way too long. I apologize, but there's a lot to talk about. The TLDR. I don't think the new characters are worth it. One of the reruns is really good. I do think it's worth it. And yeah, there's no problem pulling the current guy for your Acheron, especially if you're picking her up on rerun, right? So yeah, I'll end the video there. Not sorry for yapping. It's what I do.